I don't want to start the Monday broadcast week off in a bad mood. I'm supposed to be the guy keeping everybody calm. But Nancy Pelosi, my goodness gracious, says she was not downplaying the coronavirus by showing up in Chinatown and inviting people to come join us. She was just simply trying to stave off more racism. And if you believe that, I have a $24,000 fridge I'd like to sell you. It is outrageous. It is preposterous. And it is an insult to your intelligence. We're going to be talking about it in a minute with Congressman Ralph Norman, who is a damn good friend of the show and no fan of the Pelosi ice cream fridge. Congressman, can I confirm that you're with us on the line?
I am with you. Sorry I'm a little late.
Oh, no, come on. Hey, I got nowhere to be. You take your time. I'm not leaving the house for another month. You get here whenever you want. I'm just honored to have you on the show. Can we confirm that you are not out refrigerator shopping with Nancy Pelosi?
Do not have my head in the refrigerator, nor do I have the expensive ice cream that she had in there. One of those pints was over $19. Now, I won't afford that. I wouldn't be advertising when we're in the worst pandemic in the world that she is advocating, eating expensive ice cream and that everything's hunky dory.
Well, I mean, I think that's the part of this that is so frustrating, is that they're trying to position themselves as champions of the poor and of the working guy, when in reality they couldn't be any more out of touch with the plight of the poor and the working guy, because they're the people most affected by these lockdowns. That's who needs to get back to work. If you have a $25,000 fridge, chances are you can get through the month without a paycheck. But it's the other people that are more affected, wouldn't you say?
Well, it really is, Jim. And what's insulting, Congress is getting paid. Everybody's getting a paycheck. We're at home. Now, I've heard those that argue, well, we're with our constituents. We're paid to do both. Mm-hmm. And for us not to be in Washington, having budget meetings, how in the world are we going to pay for this? We ought to be having those debates right now. Money is dropping out of the sky, on every one of these bills that we pass. Mm-hmm. And there's a growing concern, how are we going to pay for it? But you're exactly right. She's out of touch, and either she doesn't care or she just doesn't understand what business people go through. And it baffles us, but she's got us out till May 4th. There's a group of us going back tomorrow that are going to have a press conference, and we're going to say, look, those that are working, try the police. Are they taking the day off? Try the firemen. Yeah. Try the president and his staff. They work through Easter. And for Congress to be getting a paycheck and sitting at home, it makes no sense.
No, I'm with you. I mean, listen, the American people need you guys right now. And, obviously the reality of a lot of Americans is we've gotten to this place now where we're all on the same team. We all want to get through this. We all want to get our economy back up and running. But we're starting to see in broad daylight the politics of this get in the way. And do you feel like at this point, as we're talking about another relief bill that's going to bring aid to hospitals and increase testing, do you feel like Democrats are holding this hostage again, the way the president alluded over the weekend?
Well, time will tell, and the devil will be in the details. That's one reason we want to go up there during the pro forma session and just see what's in the bill. She's delayed it before, and, people were talking about the $25 million for the Kennedy Center, $75 million that went to the arts, and not being a lot of money. Well, you could tell that farmer who's not making payroll. You tell that business person that $1 million is not a lot of money. Every dollar on this next phase of funding ought to go to the small businesses that need it the most, not pet projects. And we've had to fight that day one. And it just shows you a lack of, I don't know what you really call it, either caring or being in touch, whatever you want to call it. But to even have to debate that is shameful.
Yeah, you're right, though. I don't know what you call it. Just don't use too big of a word on this show. It'll throw everybody for a loop. We're
Well,
we're used to keeping them calm, simple. They're used to simple old me over here. But Congressman, and if you're just joining us, the great Congressman Ralph Norman is on the phone from South Carolina. Did you see any of Nancy Pelosi's comments yesterday? Because I wanted to talk about this. There's been a big criticism in the media that the president waited too long to act. But my frustration is that no one saying that now was saying that then. Did you see the video of Pelosi in Chinatown telling people to come on down and hang out?
Well, I was shaking my head the whole time. Yeah, I saw it, and what was she doing? In January, she was trying to impeach the president.
Yep.
What was she doing the time that in January this president suspended flights coming from China, other than calling him racist and a xenophobe and everything else? I mean, this president has done everything humanly possible, and for her to make the statements that she made. It's all politics, and if there's a time, Jimmy, that we really shouldn't be in politics, it's now. Because you look at the people doing so many great things on their own, and to bring some of the comments she had were bizarre, just like her actions were when she tore up the president's speech and when she, held the impeachment papers, when she said it was a dire necessity. I mean, all of it doesn't make sense, but. That's why we got to have new leadership. You can't give these people power. You just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the problem, is that it's become personal for too many people in Washington now, and they can't think rationally. Like, even in moments like this, they can't put down their hatred for this president, because it's such a massive effort to undercut his response to the pandemic, when the reality is, if you claim to care about people, you really shouldn't be trying to make life any harder on the guy that's being tasked with looking out for these people. So when she said yesterday, I give him an F as a grade, it's absurd. And it's obviously her playing politics, and she's catering to her base by doing that. But to some extent, it almost becomes counterproductive to the response efforts when you've got one half of the country fighting the pandemic and the other half of the country fighting the president. Do you think on Congress most people have gotten the memo or backed off? Are you encouraged by what you've seen, or is what Pelosi's doing emblematic of what everybody's doing?
Well, I mean, making the comments that she's made have been helpful, and I think the fact that she's now. I mean, we knew the stimulus was going to run out. That was no secret. I mean, there's not enough money to print to satisfy all the needs. But this is just a stopgap measure until we, one, get a vaccine, two, get the personal equipment so that it doesn't run rampant all over the country. Mm-hmm. But it sure doesn't help some of the statements she's made, particularly when, what we can agree with, we're all Americans. Mm-hmm. And we should be pulling together. And we'll find out when we vote on it Wednesday how sincere she is. But I hear, and we had a conference call last night, our caucus, and the behind the scenes is still not pretty with what she's trying to add. Yeah. And it ought to be a one-page document that goes to the small business in this country. That's very simple, and I think it ought to go to the banks, that those that could not or didn't have the wherewithal to participate should be participating, and it ought to go to the small businesses, not pet projects, and not $1 ought to go to any pet project, not just for her, but for any of us. Mm-hmm. I would love to do pet projects in South Carolina, but I wouldn't do it because it's not right, and we're suffering something that's going to take a while to get over. Well, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Well, no, and what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but you broke our hearts on Fox Across America. We thought you could get some slush money into that bill for us. We could start like a whiskey distillery or something.
Well, we've got to figure out how to pay for it, and I wish there was a piggy bank that had money. This is all borrowed money. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Congressman Babin earlier today, and I said, there's a growing number of us that are just we're just not going to, until we come up with a balanced budget or some type cuts. Mm-hmm. We're through with the money after this next round, because you can't print it fast enough. And look at what's going to happen. This stuff's got to be paid back, and we got to realize it. And it's a new day in America.
It is. It's going to be a radical transformation. I mean, already what we've already seen happen to our economy in the last few months. What do you say to the people in your home state that are planning to protest tomorrow because they've had it with these shutdown orders? Do you feel their frustration on some level?
Absolutely. I mean, where can you go and go to any town in this country? It's like a ghost town. You can't exist like that.
Yeah.
And at some point, you've got to say, it makes sense to take the precautions, take the normal precautions that we know about now, and let's get back to work. And thankfully in South Carolina, we'll get back to work sooner than the other states. But I can see in New York, continuing to be shuttered. But you look at Wyoming, you look at Kansas, states that are not infected like other parts are, and you gradually open them up where it makes sense. And so there's a risk in everything. When I get out of bed, you and I go to work, there's a risk.
Yeah.
And we've got a risk now of opening the country up. But look at the reality if we don't.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I hope it comes sooner rather than later. And I think you use common sense and you assume the risk and move forward with it. But I don't. The protesters, it's been peaceful. They've got a statement to make, and I agree with them. It's time to go back to work and feed families.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And I would tell you, as someone who's been home a month, I'm at a greater risk from my wife than I am from the virus at this point. There's a 80% chance.
Feeling, and we can all feel the pain.
Yeah, is that why you're heading to Washington tomorrow? Did your wife just force you out of the house? Be honest.
Well, yes, she's had her opinions weigh a good bit, and it's a welcome relief to get me out of the house, I think.
That's what the real protest is tomorrow. It's just spouses wanting their spouse out of the house. I get it. Listen, I appreciate you coming on the show because you always shoot straight with us, and I feel like in times like this we need an adult conversation as opposed to a political conversation. So thanks for tackling the tough stuff. Stay safe out there, would you?
Well, I would, Jimmy. Tell your listeners to get in touch with the congressman. I mean, that's where your voices matter, and now more than ever. And just remember, the states form the federal government, not vice versa. This piggy bank is going to end, and we're going to have to pay for it. But use your voices is the thing I would leave you with.
Very well said. I mean it. We appreciate you coming on the show. This was stellar. You stuck the landing as always. I mean, if we give out a game ball on this show, you'd have like 7 of them on the shelf. You know that, right?
Well, we appreciate what you do.
All right, rock and roll. It's an honor. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon, Congressman. There you go. The great Ralph Norman. Telling it like it is. It's something people don't appreciate hearing. But there is a finite amount of money in our government. Like everything we're spending right now, we're spending with the best of intentions, and we want to help everybody. Okay, but the best way to help people, if you're just interested in having a long-term adult conversation, the best way to help people is to get them back to work, is to get the pandemic under control and to get people back to work. And when he says things like, hey, we're going to run out of money, he's not saying, I don't care about workers. We don't care about the little people. Quite the contrary. And that's been my great frustration in all of this, is that the people out there, like the Hollywood celebrities yelling at you to stay home, because they're in a 30,000-foot mansion with a string quartet that serenades them while they poop. Yeah, it's easy to stay home. You're living a nice, pampered, opulent life. But the people who don't know if the lights are going to be on next month because there's no money coming in, at some point, not only is staying at home frustrating, but it's detrimental to your economic health, to your physical health. It becomes a different level of obstacle than I'm all out of things to watch on Netflix. That's not why they're going out into the street. They're going out into the street because they won't be able to pay their Netflix subscriptions.